Asian guy here. Today is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. Do you remember the great toilet paper panic of 2020, when the whole world lost its mind over paper products? Well, take a look at this chart. This is the Global World Uncertainty Index, and it has just hit an all-time high. It is effectively twice as high as it was during the pandemic panic. That means the global anxiety level right now makes 2020 look like a walk in the park. And before we tear open the doors to this empty warehouse, I need to know where you are tracking this collapse from. Are you watching from New York, London, or are you seeing the premium spike in Singapore? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, I want you to imagine you are walking into your local grocery store. You see a price tag on a gallon of milk. It says $5. You come back 12 hours later, when the night shift manager is on duty, and suddenly that same gallon of milk is priced at $50. Same milk, same store, just a different time of day. You would think the store is broken, right? You would call the police. You would say this is fraud. Well, welcome to the silver market. What I am about to show you is not a glitch. It is a crime scene that has been running in slow motion since 1970. We are looking at a chart that effectively deconstructs the biggest wealth transfer in history. We have three lines here. First, the red line. This is the spot price you see on the news. It is the price your broker quotes you. It ends right around $80 an ounce in this projection, or $30 in reality. It is the official narrative. It is the price on the sticker. But look deeper. Look at the black line. This line represents what happens to your money if you only buy and hold silver during United States trading hours. That means you wake up in New York, you buy silver when the opening bell rings on Wall Street, and you sell it right before they go to lunch. If you had done that since 1970, starting when silver was just $1.92, do you know what your investment would be worth today? $42. Think about that. Over 50 years of inflation, wars, technological revolutions, and money printing, and you barely made enough to buy a tank of gas. Why? Because the United States trading session is where the price goes to die. It is a slaughterhouse. It is where the paper derivatives, the coupons for silver, are dumped onto the market to suppress the price. It is like a grocery store that prints 1 million fake coupons for milk just to make sure the farmers cannot sell their real milk for a profit. But now, look at the blue line. This is the vampire shift. This represents what happens if you bought silver only during the overnight trading hours when New York is asleep and the Asian markets, specifically Shanghai and Hong Kong, are awake and trading. If you only held silver during these night shift hours, that theoretical price would not be $42. It would be $377 an ounce. Let that sink in. $377 versus $42. That is a ninefold difference. It is the difference between a retirement plan and a winning lottery ticket. This proves one undeniable fact. The Western markets are selling paper promises to keep the price down, while the Eastern markets are buying the physical metal and bidding the price up. The West is playing a video game with cheat codes, while the East is actually building the hardware. For decades, this game worked because the East was willing to play along. They were willing to take our paper dollars in exchange for their hard assets. But something has snapped. The shopkeeper is angry. We are seeing a massive structural break in China. The Shanghai Futures Exchange, or SHFE, just suspended 2 more groups of accounts for trading violations. In just over a week, the number of suspended groups has risen to 22. Now, usually, financial regulators are like sleeping security guards. They do not care. But suddenly, Shanghai is acting like a bouncer at a nightclub who has had enough of your nonsense. Here are the new rules they are implementing for off-exchange gold and silver trading. And when you hear these, I want you to think about that empty grocery store again. Rule number 1. Off-exchange leveraged derivatives, or leveraged paper longs and leveraged paper naked shorts, will no longer be tolerated. Let me translate that into grocery store language. Imagine a guy walks into the store and says, I want to sell you 1,000 apples that I do not actually have, and I want to borrow money from you to do it. In the past, the store said, sure, but now, Shanghai is saying, get out. No more selling what you do not own. No more naked shorting. If you want to sell silver, you better show us the silver. Rule number 2. Physical gold and silver deliveries will be enforced. This is the kill shot. This is the moment the manager locks the doors and says, nobody leaves until we check your bags. In the paper market, almost nobody takes delivery. It is all just betting on the price direction. But China is changing the game to a physical delivery market. They are demanding the metal. Rule number 3. Off-exchange fractional reserve gold and silver will be scrutinized. Fractional reserve is a fancy way of saying selling the same ounce of silver to 10 different people. It is like selling the same seat on an airplane to 10 passengers and hoping they do not all show up at the airport at the same time. Well, guess what? Everyone is showing up at the airport, and Shanghai is checking tickets. And rule number 4, off-exchange rehypothecation will not be tolerated. Rehypothecation is just financial theft with a tie on. It means taking your collateral and using it to gamble on someone else's debt. China is putting a stop to the casino. Why are they doing this now? Why the sudden aggression? Because they know what is coming. They see the disconnect between the black line and the blue line. They know that the paper price in the West is a lie, and they are refusing to let their physical inventory be drained at a discount. Basically, the exchange that handles physical silver delivery in the world's largest industrial economy just admitted it cannot fill orders with paper anymore. They need the real thing. Imagine your bank telling you that withdrawals are by appointment only, and then they cancel all the appointments. That is the level of panic we are seeing behind the scenes in the Shanghai vaults. They are tightening the leash because the dog has already run away. The spread between the paper price in London and the physical price in Shanghai is blowing out. We used to see a few cents difference. Now we are seeing premiums of $10 or more. That is not a market inefficiency, that is a broken dam. And while the West is busy printing more paper coupons to try and patch the leak, the East is simply taking all the water. They are buying everything that isn't nailed down. So when you look at that chart, do not just see lines, see a war. A war between the fake price and the real price. And for the first time in 50 years, the real price is winning. The vampire shift is coming for the sunlight, and the traders in New York are about to get burned. You know that feeling when you are hosting a dinner party for 20 people, the guests are arriving in an hour, and you suddenly realize you forgot to buy the main course? You open the fridge, and it is just a jar of pickles and a half-eaten lemon. That moment of sheer, cold panic, that is exactly where the United States government is right now. For the last 40 years, America has been the absent-minded shopper of the global economy. We assumed the grocery store China would always be open, always be cheap, and always let us buy on credit. We outsourced our mining, we closed our smelters, and we turned our strategic stockpiles into parking lots. We thought we could just print dollars and buy whatever we needed, whenever we needed it. But now, the store manager has flipped the sign to closed, and Uncle Sam is standing in the parking lot with an empty cart and a maxed-out credit card. Enter Project Vault. It sounds like a bad spy movie, doesn't it? But it is very real. Earlier this month, the administration officially launched this initiative, and it is effectively the panicked realization that we have nothing in the pantry. We are talking about a complete pivot in national strategy. We are moving from just-in-time inventory to just-in-case hoarding. The president stood up and said we never want to go through the shortages of the past again. He compared it to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Now, think about that. We have millions of barrels of oil sitting in salt caverns underground, just in case of a war or an embargo. Project Vault is the admission that we need to do the exact same thing for metals. And when you look at the United States government's critical minerals list, which is basically their emergency grocery list, you see something that should make every silver investor sit up and take notice. Silver is absolutely on that list. For decades, the government treated silver like it was just shiny jewelry or loose change. They sold off the strategic silver stockpile years ago because they thought they did not need it. They thought silver was for spoons and coins, but now they realize silver is the nervous system of the entire modern military. It is in the Tomahawk missiles. It is in the solar panels powering the grid. It is in the electric vehicles. You cannot fight a 21st century war without silver. And suddenly, they are scrambling to buy it back. But here is the problem. They are not just competing with investors anymore. They are competing with China, who saw this coming 10 years ago. While we were busy trading paper contracts on the COMEX, China was busy buying the actual mines. While we were suppressing the price to hide inflation, China was draining the vaults. And it is not just silver. The panic goes deeper. Look at niobium. Most people have never heard of niobium. It sounds like a made-up element from a sci-fi movie, but niobium is the unsubstitutable steel strengthener. It is the secret sauce. You put a tiny bit of this stuff into steel, and it becomes lighter, stronger, and heat-resistant. It is indispensable for jet engines, rocket nozzles, and hypersonic missiles. If you want to build a fighter jet that does not melt when it flies at Mach 5, you need niobium. Here is the terrifying statistic for the Pentagon. The United States imports 100% of its niobium. We produce zero. Nothing. Not a single ounce. And where does 90% of the global supply come from? Brazil. And who has been aggressively courting Brazil and buying up mining interests in South America? You guessed it. The BRICS alliance. So, the United States is in a position where its entire aerospace industry is dependent on a supply chain it does not control. Then you have neodymium and praseodymium. These are the rare earth magnets. They are the heartbeat of the electric vehicle revolution and missile guidance systems. Again, China controls the processing. In October of last year, China put export restrictions on these rare earths. That was the warning shot. That was the grocery store manager locking the front door. So, Project Vault is not just a government program. It is a desperate attempt to dig a garden in the backyard because the supermarket is empty. The Chicago Mercantile Exchange is even looking into launching rare earth futures contracts for the first time ever. They are trying to financialize a shortage. But you cannot print niobium. You cannot print silver. This is why I say the history books will look back at 2026 as the year the game changed. In 1980, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market, they were just two rich guys trying to make a profit. The government changed the rules to crush them. But today, the Hunt brother is the United States government itself, and the whale they are fighting is the Chinese government. This is no longer a speculation trade. This is a national security emergency. When the Department of Defense enters the market as a buyer, they do not care about the spot price. They do not care if silver is $30 or $300. They just need the metal. They are price insensitive. Imagine if you were starving and you saw the last loaf of bread on the shelf. Would you care if it cost $10 or $100? No, you would just buy it. That is the buyer that has just entered the room. Project Vault is the government admitting that the price of paper assets is irrelevant and the availability of physical assets is everything. They are realizing that you cannot build a Patriot missile out of Bitcoin. You cannot build a submarine out of treasury bonds. You need the cold, hard metal. So, we have a convergence of events that we have never seen before. We have the blue line divergence where the East is pricing silver higher than the West. We have the Shanghai Exchange demanding physical delivery and banning paper games. And now, we have the United States government launching a panicked buying program for critical minerals because they realize they are 100% dependent on foreign powers for the very things that keep them safe. The pantry is empty. The guests are here, and the price of dinner is about to go through the roof. Now, let us walk down the baking aisle of this global grocery store. You are looking for flour to bake a cake. You expect to see pallets of flour stacked to the ceiling, right? Because that is what the government told you. They said, "Do not worry, the warehouse is full." Well, let me show you the actual inventory logs from the Shanghai Gold Exchange. And I warn you, if you are an industrial manufacturer, this is going to look like a horror movie. Back in 2021, the Shanghai vaults were bursting at the seams. They held over 3,000 tons of silver. Imagine a massive cookie jar filled to the brim. It was so full, you could barely close the lid. The world felt safe. Manufacturers felt secure. They thought they could just reach in and grab a handful whenever they needed it. But today, that number has collapsed. We are down to just 350 tons, from 3,000 to 350. That is nearly a 90% drop in just a few years. The cookie jar is empty. There are just a few crumbs left at the bottom. And the biggest kids in the neighborhood, the solar panel makers, the electric vehicle companies, the military contractors are all fighting over those last few crumbs. And here is the kicker. On February 28th, 2026, which is just days away, the rules change. China has announced zero delivery allocation for silver contracts for participants without hedging quotas. Let me translate that from bureaucrat into grocery shopper. It means the store manager is standing in front of that empty shelf and saying, unless you have a special VIP card that proves you are a real factory that needs this flour to survive, you get nothing. No more speculators. No more hedge funds. No more paper traders. If you are just betting on the price of flour, get out of the line. We are saving the last few bags for the bakeries that actually bake bread. This is a force majeure event in slow motion. The exchange that handles physical silver delivery for the world's largest industrial economy just admitted it cannot fill orders for everyone. Imagine your bank telling you that withdrawals are by appointment only, and then they cancel all the appointments. That is effectively what zero delivery allocation means for the paper market. So, why is this happening? Where did all the silver go? It did not just vanish into thin air. It was consumed. And this is the part the Wall Street analysts always forget. Silver is not like gold. Gold is a hoarder. We dig gold up, turn it into a bar, put it in a vault, and it sits there for 1,000 years. It is lazy. Silver is a worker. Silver is the essential employee of the periodic table. It goes into your iPhone. It goes into your Tesla. It goes into the solar panels on your roof. It goes into the Tomahawk missiles we talked about earlier. And once it is used, in many cases, it is gone forever. It ends up in a landfill. It is consumed. We are burning the furniture to heat the house. This massive drain, from 3,000 tons down to 350 tons, tells us that the industrial demand is eating the supply alive. The green energy revolution is basically a giant silver-eating monster. You cannot have a solar panel without silver paste. You cannot have an electric vehicle contact without silver. You cannot have an AI server farm without silver connections. And right now, the price in China reflects this desperation. Remember the blue line? The reason the price is so much higher in Shanghai trading at a premium of $10 or more over the COMEX price in New York is because that premium is the real world tax. It is the price you pay to actually get the metal. In New York, you pay $30 for a piece of paper that says silver. In Shanghai, you pay $40 to actually hold the bar in your hand. That $10 difference is the cost of truth. It is like going to a concert. The ticket might say $50 on the face, but if the show is sold out and you really want to get in, you are paying the scalper $200. China is the scalper right now. And the industrial giants are paying the price because they have no choice. If you are Samsung or Tesla or a defense contractor, you cannot tell your shareholders, sorry, we could not build the cars this month because the spot price was too high. No, you pay whatever it costs, you pay the premium, you empty the vault. This is why the Project Vault initiative from the US is so critical. They are realizing that the Shanghai inventory is the canary in the coal mine. If China runs out, the world stops. We are seeing a run on the bank, but instead of cash, it is a run on strategic metals. And look at the timing. This zero delivery rule kicks in at the end of February 26, right when the global uncertainty is at an all-time high, right when the inventory is at rock bottom. It is the perfect storm. The cupboard is bare, the guests are hungry, and the delivery truck has broken down. So, when you see the price of silver fluctuate on your screen, ignore it. That is just noise. Look at the inventory. Look at the tons leaving the vault. Look at the premium being paid in Shanghai. That is the signal. The signal is flashing red. The era of cheap, abundant silver is over. We are entering the era of unobtainium. And if you think 350 tons sounds like a lot, just remember, in the global market, that is nothing. That is a rounding error. That is less than a week's worth of global consumption. We are literally days away from the bottom of the barrel. And once we hit the bottom, the only way the price can go is vertical. So here's the bottom line. We are standing at the checkout counter, and the register is broken. The manager is shouting that the price is $30, but the shelves behind him are empty. You are left with two scenarios. Scenario A is that the paper market collapses under the weight of false promises. Scenario B is that the physical price rips away from the paper price permanently, and silver becomes unobtainium for anyone without a strategic partnership. This is not a drill. The blue line proved that the real value is nearly 10 times higher than what you are being told. The red line is a lie. Do not be the person standing in the parking lot with a fistful of coupons and an empty cart. Get the metal. If you cannot hold it, you do not own it. For those who want to survive this supply crunch, especially regarding the critical minerals like niobium that the United States is desperate for, I have attached the full Project Vault dossier in the description below. The store closes on February 28th. Make sure you have your supplies before the lights go out. Stay safe.